Okay, so we are going live here with our broadcast in Costa Rica. I'm John Harrington with Solar Costa Rica, and we're going to give you a small presentation. I know it's supposed to be an hour and a half, and no one can last that long, not even me, so hopefully it'll be about half that amount of time. We're going to, let's see here. Okay. All right, so let me get back to this. Doing a presentation to kind of give you an overview of what's going on with the new solar programs in Costa Rica, where we've been here in Costa Rica, and where we're headed. And so what I'd like to do is it's a slide presentation, and we're gonna give you that actually right. So let's go back to the top, and we're looking at creating a new energy strategy for you as a consumer that's going to provide you more comfort while saving you money in the process. Everybody knows that the price of electricity is rather high here in Costa Rica. Anybody that's come from, say, the United States, if you come from Europe, of course, they still have a pretty high cost of electricity. In the United States, it seems to be subsidized, but not so much in Europe, and certainly not here. So who we are, solar. Well, we have to go back. Excuse me for that. Let's go back to that, and we'll start again. A slip of the finger. Who we are, Solar Costa Rica started in solar in Costa Rica in 1995. There's a system up in Monteverde, which is a hot water system running a hotel's hot water and swimming pool heat that's been there for 20 years. Solar Costa Rica was incorporated in 2004. John Harrington, that's me. I have 35 years of contracting experience and 8 years of installing solar in the United States. I've also installed in Nicaragua, Mexico, and Costa Rica. My engineer, Jose Sandoval Arce, was the #1 graduate in electrical engineering at UCR, University of Costa Rica, in 2014. And he's doing his thesis actually on solar energy right now. Our board of directors, I'm kind of proud of some of the people we brought in to help run our company. I'm president. I have the NABCEP certification as a PV installer in the United States. I'm also a BPI energy auditor. I have other certifications in building sustainability, technician, and so on. Joe Tanner, a friend of mine who has installed solar in Colorado back in the 1980s. Then he went off into space. He became an astronaut and actually was one of the 2 guys that worked on the Hubble. He also installed 2 of the large arrays on the International Space Station. Ed Furphy is on our board. He's the owner of Just Solar LLC in the United States, and he installs 13 megawatts of solar electricity per month with his company. Now let's put that in perspective with Costa Rica. We have half that amount total in this country installed. So he puts up twice as much as Costa Rica has now every month. And Alan Harrington is our environmental person, and he's an environmental research scientist. And just a little eye candy, this is some work that Joe did installing the large array on the International Space Station. Those are about the length of a football field. So it's pretty amazing that 2 people can go out and unfurl these. A little bit advanced solar technology, of course, and people ask if solar really works, and I hear that a lot here. Does it really work? Well, it's running the space station, and they don't have any other source other than what they've unfurled there. This is a project that Ed did at the IKEA building. He does a lot of these large commercial projects, And it's great to see these companies moving into solar because they have large roofs, and that's something certainly we have plenty of in San Jose. It's a great place to put electricity. It doesn't cause any environmental damage, and it actually shades the roof and reduces the heat inside the building. This is our project at ASADA San Rafael. It's a project we did this last year when there really wasn't a program for net metering. It's in the Fuerza Luz district, CNFL, and it is a 40 kilowatt system that runs. It's the first well pump in Central America, municipal well pump that's running on solar. And we did this project with a motor control device that reduces the demand and the amount of electricity that the pump uses. And then we added the solar array to produce the power, so that in the sunnier months, we're actually producing as much as that motor uses to produce the water, pump the water for about 1,000 homes. So the overview here is how is Coopeguancaste and ISAE implementing their solar program? And how can with going solar? That's a good question people have. What's the process to go solar? How complicated is it? What is our expected return on that? These are all sort of numbers things. How secure is your solar investment? And then my biggest question is, when do I start? So Coopeguancaste has been fairly progressive. They have these brochures available any place you go in to pay your bill. They're actually sitting on the desk there if you do go in and pay in person. And they go through the whole process of do your own photovoltaic system so that you can produce electricity on their grid. What's the process? Well, this is one of the pages. They also have it online so that you can apply online for a system that you want to install. You can actually fill this all out yourself. You would have to have an electrical engineer design the system. In Coopeguancaste, the electrical engineer designs the system. He also has to sign off on it when it's done that it meets National Electric Code. We all want to have solar arrays put in that meet NEC because that's safe and we're not going to have fires and other problems that would be involved with a cowboy operation, fly-by-night sort of thing. ISAE, what, 98% renewable energy this year because of excess of an abundant supply of water for the hydropower. But this sign here says, well, okay, where's your energy come from? Heaven is the solar power, and any hydropower, wind power, solar power, wave, all of those things are actually energy from the sun. The other energy down below, that's also from the sun, but it comes from animals and plants that have left carbon deposits over the millennium. And Costa Rica actually, interesting enough, even though we're 98% green this last year, 28% of the installed capacity, the amount of electricity that can be produced by Costa Rica, is thermal plants. And those thermal plants are actually, they burn what they call bunker fuel, and bunker fuel can be considered bitumen. When you look at the controversy over the Keystone Pipeline and the tar sands in Canada, that's the type of fuel that these power plants can burn. So is it really clean? You have to be the judge there. So what's the long-term goal when you look at your energy investment? Saving money, that's a big thing. It has to be to where you're going to save money to do this. And we can show you that that actually is the case. And you also want to add value to your investment. There was a study done recently in California 2 years ago. Stanford and Berkeley Institute did a study on the value of homes, the resale value. They looked at 1,000 homes that had solar installed. They looked at 1,000 homes that didn't, with the same type of comps, and they showed that actually in California, those solar arrays are worth $5 per watt. And when you look at the installation cost that's much lower than that, you can see that in your resale value, you're going to gain money by actually installing solar, plus the fact that you obviously aren't paying for that electricity. And the slide over on the left is a thermal camera we use when we do energy audits. This is an audit of a ice factory actually, and we looked at the amount of waste involved in producing ice, and it was considerable. I can't say that it was half of the electricity that they were using, but I would actually, it's more than that. And we're working on fixing that right now. Present situation, well, you're paying too much. Electricity is very expensive here in Costa Rica. You're most likely wasting energy. We all do. I'm guilty of that, as is everyone else, and that's something that energy efficiency is. It's sort of lacking here. It's lagging behind what's going on in the U.S., but I think we're all working towards that in the future. So if you're a hotel owner or so on, and I've talked to hotel owners about wasting energy and the air conditioning costs down in Guanacaste, we just charge it off to the cost, that extra cost off to our clients. And sometimes, you know, that can actually add up to about $10 per day. So when you look at that extra cost, wouldn't it be nice to make an extra 10 bucks a day off of each room that you rent? Power company ESA produces pretty expensive power. When you look at hydropower, it's not inexpensive power, and it's not subsidized like it is in the United States with fossil fuel production. They also charge CoopeGuanacaste for that electricity, and they obviously they charge them a little more than it costs to produce it. The other thing about electricity here is that it is fairly poor quality. The voltage goes higher than it does in more stable grids like in the United States. The sine wave on it is not exactly clean. And when you get closer to the end of the transmission lines, which would be the coastal areas, the resort areas, the electricity is actually quite a bit worse. And that does create problems. And there are people, you may experience that your air conditioners don't last as long as they should because the motor vibrates, your refrigerator motors vibrate. It's a little hard on electronics and so on. One thing, when you do install solar, these inverters that are in production now produce a pure sine wave of electricity. So it actually cleans up the power when we're producing electricity over what you get off the grid. And you have to look at Coopeguancaste as it has some of the best sun power potential on Earth. So you, as an environmental person, because you're here in Costa Rica and it's an environmentally conscious country, you want to help with these environmental issues and the costs that are involved with the planet with fossil fuels and other types of power generation. We look at Copeguancaste Sun. This is a study that was done in 2014. And if you look at even the worst zones in the northern zone, which is where all the hydropower generally is, and because it rains a lot, you still can produce 1,222 kilowatt hours per year per installed 1,000 watts installed. If you look at the North Pacific region, the Nicoya Peninsula, you have the best part of the country, and it's 1,524 kilowatt hours per year per kilowatt installed. So let's look at leaders. There have been the world leaders. Germany this last year has been one of the solar energy, and when you look at the amount of electrical potential from the sun that they have, they're down around, it looks around 900 to 1,000 kilowatt hours per square meter potential by solar GIS computer modeling. And then when we look at Costa, we're up in even in the worst parts of the country, we're still over 1,000 kilowatt hours per square meter. When you look down into Coopeguancaste, you're at 2,000. You're more than double what the potential is in Germany to produce electricity off of the same solar panel. So that's something to keep in mind is, does it work? Well, you're in one of the best places on earth for that to happen. So the development up to the present, ESA had a pilot program going on over a year ago, and for over a year we had no potential way to do net metering in Costa Rica, and that's been an issue certainly with my company and any other solar company in Costa Rica. Copeguancaste did not have any net metering, and none of the other companies had a net metering program. So that was a little bit of a limitation here in this country. Solar Costa Rica, our company went in and we spoke to the engineers at Copeguancaste, and we devised a little pilot program, plan pilote of our own. We did some small installations so that they could see how they work, and we made it so that they were self-consumption. Essentially, they didn't produce electricity to push back into the grid. Copeguancaste was not liable to pay us for any excess electricity that we produced. And then in November of 2015, the Attorney General here in Costa Rica actually made self-consumption a law, so that you don't need a permit or a contract with the power company if you're producing electricity that is only used by yourself. And there are many, many clients that can take advantage of that. When you do self-consumption, you're not going to produce all of your electricity. You're going to produce what you use in the daytime at any one time, and you don't have to pay the fees for the connection fees, the net metering fees, and the access fees that are charged for net metering. And in April came up with, or finally opened net metering back up, and they added in some access fees and permits fees. Those are what I consider, they're still pretty fair. It's a pretty fair arrangement with the power company, because you are using their grid essentially as your battery system. Copeguancaste opened up their program with the lowest fees in the country. And we'll show you a little bit later on what all of those fees are. And ESA has the highest fees in the country, but I would say that having installed in the United States, when you look at those fees compared with the fees that you pay for your permits and your inspections by the building department and so on, it's still higher in the United States than what you're paying here now. And then the other thing that's kind of crucial for a lot of people is that they don't have the money to throw down for an electrical system that's going to produce electricity for guaranteed for 25 years and probably 50 years and beyond, all at one time. BCR opened up a green energy program, loan program, where they charge you 1% less on a fixed rate loan. They also charge you their origination fees are half of what a normal loan is. And this is smart for the banks, because you're not actually paying any more money than you would had you not gotten that loan. You would be paying the electrical company for that electricity rather than the bank. And if you were a banker, well, why not? Pay me instead of the power company. And these were some of our self-consumption projects. This one is in Playa Grande. It's only 2 panels, but it was a micro inverter system that we installed to see how we could reduce the bill. We also did some energy efficiency measures on this particular project, and they got amazing results by changing over to LED bulbs and even just moving the coolers in the grocery store away from the west wall, because it got so hot in the afternoon that they were able to make reductions of half of their power bill. And this is back to the ASADA San Rafael project. This was another essentially self-consumption. It's not going to produce excess electricity. We will get some rollover credits during the excuse me, the sunniest months of the year, and during the rainy months to reduce the electrical demand. And this is kind of a great thing with when you're using this with a water well, the demand goes down during the rainy season. So that actually the pump runs less and you need less electricity. And of course, you're going to make less with a solar array when it's cloudy out. So Jose put together some of these slides for me, and it's in Spanish, and we are in Costa Rica. So we'll do a little translation because I'm doing this presentation in English today. But these are a cost comparison between ICE's commercial, residential, and Coopeguancaste. When it says costs, and these are for your permit fees. You have a feasibility study that costs you 90,000 colones. There's a inspection fee and interconnection of 80,000 colones. Re-inspection fee if you need it, if you didn't do the installation properly the first time, and that's 80,000 colones. And then your net metering, your bidireccional is 25,000 colones and 25,000 colones for a production meter that you also have to install. And I've looked at the costs in the United States for those digital meters, and it's essentially along the same price line that we'd be paying there. So your total cost is about 300,000 colones, and you have some additional costs. You have to install a second meter socket for that, for the production meter. And that's about 150,000 colones along with the wiring to do that. Now you do have an access tariff of 28,000 colones with ICE, and that access tariff is when you spin your meter backwards in the daytime. Say you have everything shut off, or you're only running a little bit of electricity and you're producing the most electricity in the middle of the day, your meter runs backwards and it clicks off a kilowatt hours in the daytime. Because it's a smart meter, ICE charges you 28 colones for running for each kilowatt hour that you run it backwards. However, that kilowatt hour is 142 colones instead of the 28. So the net difference is about 110 colones more or less that you're saving even when you're spinning the meter backwards. If you are using that electricity in the daytime, your air conditioner's running and you're producing that solar electricity, then you're saving the entire 142 colones per kilowatt hour. On a commercial basis, and this is small commercial, there's a little bit higher fees. You have your study is 175, your inspection is 130, re-inspection is 130. Your bidirectional meter is 35,000 colones, and your production meter is 35,000. It's a total of 535,000 colones, and then there's the additional 150 for the meter base. The same tariff access of 28 colones per kilowatt hour. Coopeguancaste, to look at it, the difference in what they're charging, your feasibility study is 11,000 colones. Your interconnection fee inspection is 49,000 colones. Any re-inspections are 11,000 colones if you didn't do it right the first time. And your bidirectional meters cost you 25,000 colones each. So that adds up to 121,000 colones, with it at 150,000 colones for your and cabling and extra breakers that you'd have to have for that. So your total on that is about $600, right? And the tariff for Coopeguancaste, instead of 28 colones, is 21 colones to run your meter backwards. Again, if you use the electricity while you're producing it, there is no access tariff. We look at when we look at payback, this is just these are parameters that we use to put together a return on investment or a payback period, both for any system that we install and send you the study for ahead of time. Okay. We looked at, the installation cost, the ESA cost of 300,000 colonies, the extra is 150,000 colonies, access fees, 28 colonies, degradation of panels over 20 years, 20%. That's what is guaranteed. Normally it's less than 10%, but we go with the 20% just to be on the safe side. And this is your inflation for residential with ESA per year is 11.9% per year. And everybody complains about the price of electricity going up every year. That's what it goes up on average. This is over, I believe this is a 14-year period that we looked at to come up with that 11.9%. And okay, so what we're looking at here is this as an example of somebody that, say, uses 300 kilowatt hours per month. We're putting in a 1 kilowatt system as 4 panels installation. We're going to produce about half of the electricity that you're using. So you're still going to have a bill, but you're going to have a smaller bill. The system doesn't deposit electricity on the grid, so the client doesn't pay the access fee, meaning that you're actually producing the electricity that you're using in the daytime. So we didn't figure in the access fee on this return. And if we go to the graph of that, your payback is actually comes back in year 5, a little less than year 5, with a 4-panel system. And that's a cost of around $3 a watt on installed cost, plus the cost that you pay for the permit and so on. That's in addition. You still have a payback of around 5 years or a little bit less. If you were to add in financing, you're going to add in a couple of years of return. But if you have the equity, you can go into the bank and sign the loan with no money down. You're going to pay less than you're paying the power company from the start. And at the end of your loan, say you have a 10-year loan, at the end of your loan, you pay nothing, the life of the system. And if you look at this actual graph, it shows that you're going to return about $30,000 over the 25-year period. And that's with only 4 panels. With an 8-panel system, this is 2 kilowatts. It includes all of these other costs again. The 300,000, the extras 150,000, the access fees of 28 colonies, degradation 11%, inflation 11.9%. But with this, with residential, we looked at a 70% payment of access fees. So that means 70% of the electricity that you produce in the daytime, you're spinning your meter backwards, and 30% is what you're using at that time. And then that 70% you can use at night. So you pay a 28 colonie payment, but you're saving 142 in doing that. And it's the same 300 kilowatt hour a month house with 8 panels. You're going to reduce your electric bill by 100%, and you actually deposit electricity back on the grid. So you do pay the access fee for 70% of what you're producing. And that would actually run your payback period back to about 6 years rather than the 5. But your return is going to be up around $34,000 or $32,000 over a 25-year period. And the other thing is you're not paying that electric bill every month like you would be with that 4-panel system. Here's an example of a commercial, and it's a Mango Hotel. And it's a return on investment with a commercial rate. And the actual payment is on a 5,000 kilowatt hour per month average during the year, and that's a $1,600 a month cost. Okay, so if we were to put in a 19 kilowatt system for Mango, and that produces 50% of the electricity, you're not paying the access fee because you're using that electricity. And let's assume that Mango is running air conditioners and they're doing their laundry, and which is for hotels, that's a big cost because of the washing machines and then dryers to do laundry. That's done in the daytime. That's all self-consumption type power production. And that would actually put your payback much more rapid. We're looking at less than 4 years, or in the 4th year, you're going money ahead. Okay, so if you put in a 19 kilowatt system, this includes the cost of the system. When you get to 25 years, you have saved, looks like about $450,000. To me, that seems to be, makes more sense than paying the power company and not doing anything. If you pay the power company and don't do anything, you know, when you get to year 5 and you're actually getting, you're not paying for that electricity anymore. Say you're at 5 years out with paying ESA, they don't come with it back to you, go, boy, you're such a great customer, we're just going to give it to you for free from here on out. No, that doesn't happen. You just keep paying. So this is the status quo. This is the way you've been doing it, is you keep paying it. But if you were to install the solar, of course, well, you would save money. So we look at case 2. This is to produce all of the electricity, and this is to show that if you pay the access fee on half the electricity that you produce, a payback period of around 5 years. And of course, if you add financing into that, the cost of financing will throw your payback up another year or two, a couple of years. But again, if you do finance this system, it's not money out of your pocket. It's just signing the contract. And with this system of 100% of your electricity production, you're saving about $460,000 over that 20-year period. So microinverter systems, this is something we've been installing. I don't know if you remember, of course you don't remember it, but I sort of do. The first slide we did, one of that was with microinverters. The one we did at Mareas Homeschool, International Homeschool, was with microinverters. Microinverters are kind of becoming the wave of the future. Shade is less of a problem because you have an inverter for each panel. You can install your panels on different facing parts of the roof. They can be at different angles to the sun. When you have a string inverter, you can't do that. You have monitoring down to each panel on your system. So if you have a panel that's going bad or an inverter that's going bad, you can actually see that in real time. Or say you have a branch that falls on one and you can't get up the roof to see it or something, you would know, of course, that panel has an issue, and then you would go up there to check it out. You also don't have, with the commercial system that we installed, it's allowed to go up to 1,000 volts of direct current. That particular system, it reaches up around 850 volts of DC, and if you with direct current, when you if you pull the wires apart, say, it creates an arc like a lightning bolt. And that actually is, it gets rather hot. So DC current, of course, all the connections and the wiring and so on is made for that, and it's made to be safe with that. But say you were going to try to do a do-it-yourself system or something, then you're going to get into that situation where you're dealing with current that's much higher than you have actually in your house, and it's also direct current. If you remember, or if you are aware of the conflict between Edison and Tesla. Of course, Tesla went out with the AC current over Edison, partly because DC current won't transmit that far unless you go way up in voltage, and again, then you have issues. So you don't have any DC current on the roof with a microinverter system. There's less components. You don't have, well, I mean, not necessarily less components, but you don't have this big box hanging down off your wall in your house. But there are also other things you don't need, combiner boxes than that when you use microinverters, you don't have to use that. Microinverters also have up to a 25-year warranty. That's the same warranty that your panels have. So with your inverter, if you get a 25-year warranty, of course, your whole system is guaranteed for 25 years. If you were to do a do-it-yourself system, and we do sell the kits for solar panels, racking, and microinverters, along with the design. Of course, you have to pay the engineering services to have it engineered and stamped, which is required by the power company. And then we would also do the inspection to make sure that it was done according to code. And the other thing about microinverter systems that I really like is the prices come way down from the original inverters that we installed, which were N phase. The price is about half of what it was then. What you can also do with the monitoring, these microinverters we're using are AP systems, microinverters, and this shows the graph for 1 day of power production at Mareas School. You can see that it was sunny because you're going to have a bell curve when it's totally sunny out. So it was sunny up until about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and then the clouds started coming over, and you see this jump up and down of your power generation, and that's all just due to clouds going over. And the other thing you can look at, and of course this AP Systems dashboard you have, you can look at off your iPhone. You can look at it from anywhere in the world. It is web-based, so this is something that you can look at from anywhere and see how your power is working at your house. And I've had clients that the world, and it's kind of a toy for them because they can see what the weather was like back home in a way. And this is power generation for the first month. This inverter system hadn't been up the whole month, and so you can look at a daily, a weekly, or monthly. So this system, this is 4 panels. It's saved essentially if you were burning oil, and there are oil burning plants in Costa Rica, you'd save 60 kilograms so far of carbon out of the air. It's the same as not burning 7 gallons of gasoline or planting 3 trees. And this is where I mentioned for my dashboard as the installer, I'm able to go to each inverter and each panel to see what they're producing. So this 4-panel system here, you can see that there's a 1.39 kilowatt hours produced by one panel, 1.37, and then a little bit less on the other 2. Those other 2 were probably, well, they're the west-facing panels. We did this test with east-facing panels and west-facing panels. We're trying to smooth off the bell curve at the top for self-consumption, because that's what the system is. It's for the school that actually uses almost all of its electricity in the daytime. So we're able to put this system in without paying the access fees and the permitting fees to install it, because it is self-consumption. So what are your potential alternatives? Well, once keep paying the power company like you always have. And most people, that's what we're doing. We keep paying the power company. You're essentially renting. You're renting your power instead of owning your power. It's kind of like renting a car as opposed to owning it. It's not very economical, but you do pay a little bit less. And what the heck? There's no brain damage there. You just keep paying, other than the fact that it keeps coming out of your wallet. The other one would be to buy a PV system for cash and stop paying for that electricity altogether. And then another one would be to buy a solar PV system with credit and still pay less than you're paying now. And then at the end of your loan period, you pay nothing, again, for the electricity that's producing. And then I like to joke a little bit that you could move into a yurt with no electricity, and that would be an option. Then you don't have to keep paying that bill. Or you could sell your home and move to Canada. And then you could live off of that bitumen tar sand production. So, should you keep throwing money out at the window? That's your choice. Look at energy efficiency. This is another thing that we try to encourage beyond just doing solar. When you're out in the sun, obviously you can tell it's hot, and there are problems with the way people construct homes here. There's very little insulation or worry about that. When you're in Guanacaste, you, of course, realize that when you see what your electric bill is when you're running air conditioners. And a lot of that is energy waste. So look at the energy you're using and trim the waste, because that seems to be, I mean, I can tell you that the cheapest energy is the energy you don't use. So you might want to try to get an energy audit. We offer energy audits. We use a blower door that creates excessive currents so that we can look at leakages around the house. And we use thermal cameras to look at where you have issues with lack of insulation and leaks. This is a project we worked on. This is actually inside of a walk-in freezer. So when you walk into a freezer and you see that the wall is at 19 degrees centigrade at the top, and we got 3 degrees centigrade down a little bit lower, obviously we're right around freezing within the rest of this walk-in freezer, but that is an excessive amount of heat that you're losing or gaining, let's say, with this one. So you're just running the compressor more and using quite a bit more electricity to cool the outside. This is actually the same photo with the visual camera, and you can see that if you look up at the upper right above those wood beams, you can see the dirt that's accumulated, and that's because of air movement. That's air movement that goes through those cracks, and so you're actually bleeding cold air out and hot air in pretty much all the time. We did this project with a thermal camera and a blower door. We'll get back to that, but this is, people think that, I've had architects tell me, well, I don't have to worry about insulation because I have tile on the roof. This is a tile roof that's at, well, it's at 54 degrees centigrade. I've changed my camera over to Fahrenheit. If you're a Fahrenheit person, working on the roof at Samara, our temperatures got up to about 154 degrees. I'm sorry, 158 degrees Fahrenheit while we were working up there. So even though that tile absorbs a lot of that heat, it also re-radiates that heat down on you. So you have to run your air conditioner cooler to feel comfortable. Certainly doing an audit and looking at some kind of insulation to keep that heat from hitting you is going to save you money. And this is the blower we do. It's a Minneapolis blower door. It's the only one in Costa Rica. I've used this up in the United States to do my BPI, or Building Performance Institute, energy audits. It looks at air leakage to reduce that so that you're not wasting your precious air conditioning electricity. This particular project, this is on this walk-in cooler. We did a positive air pressure test with that. And we turned the fan way up, and actually Jose and I were up above the roof of this thing, and it was probably about 95 degrees out, and it was that hot, at least inside the building. And he said, well, it's really refreshing. And we'd done a lot of air sealing already with expanded foam, and we put 6 inches of foam block over the roof and sealed that all up. But obviously we'd missed some spots. I said, that's not really a good sign if it's refreshing. We found, among other cracks, we found a 5-inch hole, 5-inch diameter hole that was covered by the laminates inside and out, that was just moving air in and out of that. So it's working much better since we did that. So our recommendations: take the first step. Take the first step towards solar. Take the first step towards energy efficiency. You can fill out our questionnaire. This is a link to the form for solar energy. We have one on energy efficiency. We have one on solar hot water, and those are available from our website or our Facebook page. And so, look at the energy used, trim the waste. Look at your phantom loads. Are you using a tube type television? Those are ridiculously wasteful. And the same thing with the CRT on your computer. You know, use a flat screen, use a laptop. Those things save so much electricity. It's really worth the investment. And install a quality solar array. by a certified company that will give you decades of free power. So your energy is your choice. I always like Rosie the Riveter and her sign. On the right is Olga. She helped me. She volunteered to work on the project at Mareas, and she actually must spend a lot of her time on the beach. But I know that it was difficult for her to get up on that roof. It was hot. It was hard work. But she said it was an experience that she would never forget. And it's something, of course, that if you were looking to save money, you could do a do-it-yourself type project. This one was with microinverters, and microinverters make it fairly simple. So you can join us and visit us on Facebook at solar.rica, or just type in Solar Costa Rica, or look at our website, solarcostarica.com. Give us a call at 2244-6369. Thank you for your time, and enjoy your day. Whew. Was that too long? I think so. Does anybody have any questions? I have a chat bar on the right, and I see there's a few people there watching, but you can certainly type something in if you have any questions about solar energy in Costa Rica, and I'll give you a couple of seconds to do that. Otherwise, appreciate your time. No, well, the other thing is that this will be on our YouTube channel for Solar Costa Rica. So if you want to go back and review any of those numbers, I know I blasted through them fairly quickly, or give us a call, send us an email or something, and we'd be happy to reply to you. Thanks.